Hi, everyone. This is Jason Burack of Wall Street from E Street. Welcome back to another Wall Street from E Street podcast interview. Today's special guest is a first-time guest. I've actually been following his company for a while, though. I think it's a very, very amazing, innovative idea to both technology and precious metals. He's the co-founder of BitGold. He's also a serial entrepreneur, and he's the chief strategy officer of BitGold. Josh Crumb, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Jason. And I've been a big fan of the podcast, and so I'm glad we were able to connect, and really glad to be on.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I heard you guys doing other interviews, and we get more views, so it's good to finally get you on here.
It's just a function of tracking us down. We want to give everyone time. There's been a lot of people that have helped our early stage growth, and a lot of people supporting us. So it's just a matter of tracking us down. We don't play any favorites here.
Well, if you read about I mentioned BitGold in my thoughts on 2015. So before you guys even went IPO, I was telling people who follow my work to watch the company. I thought it was capable of very good things. But before we actually talk about BitGold's business model, I want to know why gold? Why did you decide to get into the gold business?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting question because of the background. In fact, Roy and I, it's funny how it's all come full circle. We met, and literally one of the first things we were talking about is, why is there not a fully gold-backed financial institution? With all of the different banks and all these different currencies, all these different regions, why was there not one bank that was just fully backed by gold? And so, I guess the longer background, Roy and I actually, most of our early careers were not focused in gold whatsoever. My background in resources and mining finance and mining engineering, I was always very focused on industrial commodities and what I originally thought were productive commodities. And Roy, as sort of a classic hedge fund investor, never liked or got gold, just kind of in the Warren Buffett style. It's a non-procreating asset, so how do you value it? How do you own it? And so neither of us actually liked gold, but we came around quite a bit. Just the more we got into understanding finance, understanding the math, the physics, and ultimately the usefulness of gold, we ended up being converts of gold in a slightly different way than the mainstream narrative.
Yeah, I actually worked in the financial industry for about 2 years myself, and I didn't know a lot about gold initially, but then the 2008 market crash happened, and the banks were collapsing, and I was wondering, well, is money going to be able to come out of the ATM? And gold started to make a lot of sense to me, and then I started researching gold, I guess, as a necessity, because it seemed that governments and central banks, they didn't know what the heck they were doing at that time, and I still don't think they know what they're doing.
Yeah, and to be fair to governments and central banks, nobody knows what's going on right now. I mean, I think we're just in a pretty open debate, globally, and everyone, with best intentions, I believe, are trying to muddle through and figure this out. But I totally agree that the track that we seem to be on, there's a missing narrative in understanding how gold can be a piece of portfolio, a piece of savings for everyday people as the things outside your control. People try to figure it out.
Now, I want to ask exactly how BitGold differs than going down to the local bullion dealer and, say, buying a couple gold coins or buying some gold bars or paying someone like a larger one of the bullion dealers either in the U.S. or Canada if you live in North America to store your gold. How does BitGold's business model, how does it work, and how is it different than the normal conventional ways to go out and buy gold?
Yeah, so, I guess, before making the direct comparison, I think it's also kind of important to understand what Roy and I's original, vision and mission was, and really it was to build a business that anyone can access. It was, if you have access to financial services, if you live in a financial center, or even if you live in a larger city with, gold shops or jewelers or bullion dealers, there's an improvement, and we can get into the nuances. But but, essentially that business wasn't built for those people. We're building a business in the true nature of the internet, the democratization, the opening up, access, equivalent access to everybody. That was really the idea. So with that regard, we can now bring gold, whether it's certain countries or certain communities or, on a mobile farm and a mobile phone and a farm, 4 hours from the closest, any sort of financial service center. And that could just even be in North America. I'm not just talking about Africa or underdeveloped markets. We wanted to build a product that uses these internet rails and makes gold access, really just available for anyone. So that was the original goal of the business. And then, in building that, we can, I can kind of get into how that improves on the existing services, really for anybody.
Sure, yeah, and it seems you've applied a lot of new types of technology into actually being able to buy physical gold and invoice in it and store it and easily pay in physical gold. And it basically, in my opinion, it's almost as if the individual, without government approval to a certain extent, although I don't know if the governments are going to change the laws on this, but it seems that the individual with BitGold has the ability to have some type of personal gold standard.
Exactly, and that's exactly it. And and we didn't build it this way to be getting around any regulations or that. In fact, I'd say probably a good 70% of the efforts and focus and even early stage capital was trying to figure out how to do this legally and do this within regulatory and banking frameworks. So yeah, I mean it's really. The key is just the technology of not relying on a central party. I mean, what our service does is it's about connecting you to your own gold. It's about taking the idea of I take a Canadian credit card to the U.S. My account's denominated in Canadian dollars, and I spend, and the local merchant in the U.S. wants U.S. dollars. So, the software and the banking infrastructure in the background is creating the foreign exchange on that card. That's really the way we, envision this business working is we just want to provide the technology and the software to be able to make that exchange for your own gold. So it's not about having an IOU or a Bitcoin backed by gold or any other, sort of centralized solution. It's about your gold. But just making it extremely accessible and very easy to use with electronic payment rails.
Yeah, and the foreign exchange you talked about, if you're just using dollars and U.S. dollars and Canadian dollars, you could run up large foreign exchange fees if you're using a credit card in another country. I mean, they could be pretty exorbitant from what I've heard and had personally done to me.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I do think it's a shame that, you run in, extremely liquid currencies. You usually get docked, 2.5% off of an intraday low, or even a couple-day low over a settlement cycle. So yeah. I mean, it is unfortunate, and I don't necessarily, think, I'm sure there's services that try to offer a better spread. But anyways, we decided that because this isn't currency to currency, this is gold to currency, and people need to get their head around a liquid gold to begin with. We wanted to just lower all those barriers. Let's get it down to 1%, and be able to basically be in gold and make that exchange for much less than it would cost to go currency to currency.
Yeah, and another thing, in the past when there was a gold standard and before a lot of paper receipts were issued for the gold standard, not sure how familiar you are with the history of banking and how banking started with goldsmiths and things like that, but I've seen a lot of documentaries on this. But it was cumbersome and dangerous to carry around, gold in your purse or gold in a sack. There was a lot of robberies and things like that. It was heavy to carry around a lot of gold. You didn't know if you brought the right amount necessarily to make purchases and things like that. So, I'm all in favor of people buying physical gold and physical silver, but to actually transact every day to day with the actual metal, it's cumbersome and difficult, and it's actually dangerous to bring around a lot of metal in public, even if you're carrying, loaded guns and things like that, because of the hint of robbery. I think there was an enormous robbery in the last 6 months of an armored truck carrying gold bars in the United States. And that was, an armored truck with a whole bunch of security guards, and there was still a plan, and they stole, I think, $20 million worth of gold.
Right, and so I think that's part of it. It's part of it is the personal security and the the security of the asset. But going back to what you mentioned about kind of the history of banking, I would take it a step further. Essentially, banking was really about barter, but it was a much more efficient barter to have your centralized sort of illiquid commodities, whether that's crops or other daily needs, rather than always lugging them around to a central market. It was about connecting people. It was about creating liquidity on illiquid assets, and so that's really what banking was all about. But if you fast forward today, and this is really the key part, it's not that electronic gold is a new idea, but it's really the external environment that we're now in, and how we can create liquidity on that gold. And so now, now that both distances and information are all being bridged by basically real-time communication, whether that's through cellular phones or real-time data processing through cloud technology, we're really in this interconnected world that we don't have those, we really don't need those IOUs or those credits to create, immediate velocity. We can go right to the underlying asset and create velocity. So really, it's not the idea, but it's also the technology around us that's enabling this whole business.
Yeah, James Turk, I'm sure you know this probably since now you're merged with James Turk of GoldMoney, but he attempted to do kind of what you guys did about 10, 15 years ago. He had some patents, but there wasn't Bitcoin, there wasn't the blockchain technology to combine it with. There wasn't as many people doing e-commerce online 10 years ago or 15 years ago as there is now. So you guys have kind of are in a sweet spot here where there's a lot more. There wasn't the smartphone where people basically had a personal computer, what was 10 or 15 years ago. Now they have it on a smartphone where they could do all these different things on their smartphone, and they could transact through encryption and apps and things like that.
That's exactly right, and that's essentially exactly what we, the conversation we had with James and with some of his directors, and they were spot on, and I think if you look at any technology, there's that same history where the idea was maybe just a little bit too early for the existing infrastructure. And so no, I mean, they nailed it. They, for all the right reasons, they built a business, and they built a great business, and it's still a great business. And we were just able, Roy and I, just growing up in slightly slightly later generation, more technology around, were able to improve on the idea. But everything they were doing and their core values, their core vision, is really identical, which is why it made such a great fit.
Now, I want to spend a good amount of time talking about this because I hear this in feedback when I try to tell listeners about BitGold and how it offers a good tool for people to be able to diversify out of their gold holdings. Not just if they're U.S. citizens, they can buy gold in multiple jurisdictions pretty easily. I get a lot of pushback from them. I hear a lot of misconceptions and objections about BitGold. So I want to spend a good amount of time going over some things for the gold community and the gold bugs who will listen to this podcast and maybe give them something different to think about.
Sure.
I hear a lot of...
Sorry, I said sure. I would love to hear some feedback.
Yeah, I think this will help out you guys at BitGold, and it'll help out me, so rather I could just reference this podcast instead of arguing with them all the time.
All right, now the pressure's on for me to answer right then, all right.
Sure. So Josh, in terms of a lot of gold bugs, I hear them say because your name is BitGold, they tend to associate that you're a lot like Bitcoin. How is BitGold exactly a lot different than Bitcoin? Yeah,
I mean, it's very, very different to start off. I mean, I think that's something that we do run into a lot of, very self-inflicted. But Bitcoin is also very important, and it was really what helped Roy and I take what was, essentially always the same idea. How do we create velocity? How do we create this financial service that revolves, around gold as an underlying unit of account? But it really took Bitcoin and all of the innovation, not just around the blockchain and cryptocurrency itself, but even in the use cases of Bitcoin and the ideas and, the ideas of an instant sort of commodity money between exchanges around the world. There's a lot of interesting things coming out of that, and that really inspired us to look at it and say, look, there's a lot of things we don't like about Bitcoin, but overall we think that community was moving, call it the technology of money, in the right direction. And so we, understanding gold and gold as a store of value, which we don't believe Bitcoin ever will be. We believe it's a commodity, just like water's a commodity, corn's a commodity, but neither of them are necessarily a great store of value when water evaporates or corn rots. So we see Bitcoin as being an interesting commodity, an interesting technology, just not a store of value. So what we built, was quite different in that, we wanted to be able to create a lot of the use cases that Bitcoin was discussing, whether it's with the underbanked or cross-border e-commerce, a number of the key areas where Bitcoin is very useful. We wanted to do the same thing with gold being the underlying store of value. And so that's, so Bitcoin certainly inspired us. It certainly got us, kind of, lit the fire under us to get moving quickly. But, one of the key points is a lot of people think, that we're a Bitcoin backed by gold. And, at the end of the day, that would be a terrible idea. It basically negates the chief attributes of both Bitcoin and gold to try to tie them together. So what we did is it's a system that has a lot of the same use cases, but it is a closed system in that we know our customers. We can protect from money laundering. We can reverse transactions if there was fraud or illegal activity. And so I would say that's the main difference is we're not anonymous or pseudo-anonymous. But it doesn't necessarily mean we're a closed system either, because at the end of the day, it's our users' gold. We're just providing the software to make it useful. So, sorry, a lot there. Maybe I'll let you ask a few more questions.
Now, BitGold does harness the blockchain technology, right? The accounting ledger, which is one of the best innovations from Bitcoin. It does use that to keep track of people's gold, right? To make sure that they can't double spend their own gold, right? To cancel payments, kind of like people doing a chargeback and things like that.
So not at this time, and I apologize. That there has been some misinformation in the market. And even we had a pivot. Probably earlier this year. Now, where it is very similar is the way that we run our centralized exchange in Orem. It's not tied to the blockchain. It's not tied to Bitcoin's blockchain, but it functions very much in a way of in the way that it sorts the ledger and deals with customer sub accounts. So we originally had gone out again trying to utilize some of the accounting and record keeping of the blockchain. But at the end of the day, we made a decision that it was a lot easier to build our own exchange and have the checks and balances within our own exchange rather than relying on the Bitcoin process.
Okay, very good. Now, another major objection I hear from a lot of people in the gold community who are hardcore physical metal is that, BitGold, all my gold might not be there. It might be fractional where you guys don't keep all the gold that people say they put the money in, and you might only keep a partial amount of gold in the vault. What measures do you guys have in store that that all the money people put in to buy gold is all the gold is there for all the cash that's been paid in all your vaults?
Exactly. No, and that's the most important question. And what we built is not a centralized reliance on us as a third party. What we built is a system of checks and balances. So when you purchase gold, through our platform, we are aligning the trade. But you're buying gold that's already been, the gold is already in Brinks. There's defined settlement terms for the bullion banks, and those quoting on our platform. It's got to be a certain standard. It's got to be assayed. It's got to be checked. It's got to be LBMA and COMEX, good delivery bullion. And so it's already gone through a number of checks and balances before it even enters a trade that's settleable. And once that happens, once you purchase the gold, we don't even, it's not even confirmed that it's your gold. It sits in a pending state on our account, just like a pending, from your bank account, a pending transaction sits in one column versus settled in another. It doesn't get confirmed until Brinks actually verifies that bar has been moved from, the bullion dealer's cage to our cage, and it's now segregated to be, the customer's gold. So we've already gone through a number of checks and balances before that even happens. And then even after the fact, our ledger every day is dropped for auditing. PricewaterhouseCoopers is our auditor. They will be auditing that the ledgers and records are all meeting. So there's checks and balances on the way in, and there's checks and balances ongoing. So while it's centralized with checks and balances, which I believe if you look at look at the history of banking and government and all of that, I find that is far superior than a purely centralized or purely decentralized system.
Yeah, and Eric Sprott, who's very big on the gold price manipulation, and he cares about allocated gold. So him being on board, I think that's a very big endorsement for you guys because he has like his gold trust and his silver trust, and he really cares about allocated metal. So I don't think he would put his name or invest in you guys if he didn't expect the same type of standards from you guys. And the same goes for James Turk over at GoldMoney.
Absolutely. I mean, this is 100% a trust business, and particularly with, call it the first adopters, the people that understand gold, they understand the counterparty-free nature of gold, and so the first thing they want to do is make sure that those systems are in place. So absolutely, it's the most important thing. We are not an IOU. We are not a future. We are not a security. We are not an ETF. We're not a Bitcoin backed by gold. We're just simply software that allows you to purchase gold and transact with gold with the greatest liquidity given technology. So yeah, it was important to get not only Eric and James who've been amazing and very very important in us building credibility and getting our story out there, but all the banks that we're partnered with, Brinks, our bullion banks, our commercial banks. It's an unbelievable amount of explaining that we have to do over and over, and people checking our systems, and that's how we build up the credibility for this trust business.
Now, I want to ask you about U.S. citizens. I think about a week or two ago, you guys allowed U.S. citizens, I guess you got regulatory approval. I don't know how long it took you. I had friends who were actually telling me it would take you guys 10 years or you would never get regulatory approval from the U.S. government or agencies to get approval. But our U.S. citizens are now fully able to sign up and start transacting in gold. They can get a debit card in gold. They can go invoice in gold. They're allowed to do everything right now?
Everything except the peer-to-peer or the B2B, B2C payments. So right now, everything else on the platform will be available. except the being able to send an email. Sending you gold right now. I wouldn't be able to do that. And for us, the important thing, as I mentioned earlier, we've in the early days, frustratingly enough, we probably spent more money on the regulatory and legal side than we did on the technology. Both were extremely important, but Roy and I both have a very, very low risk tolerance, and the business in general will only succeed and only become scalable and only be relevant for millions of users if we do things right. We know we're in a very very dynamic regulatory environment with money services, with banking. And so we just wanted to make sure we took our time and did things right, that we had enough conversations, that we felt comfortable, moving forward with any of the features that we're launching.
Very good. And you guys anticipate then in the near future that all of those options are going to be opened up to U.S. citizens then? Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the goal. And the key thing from a regulatory standpoint is we're not dealing in currency, and so we at the end of the day we're selling a widget. We're selling.
Well, I view gold as money, but I guess the regulators don't, right?
Exactly. When I said that, I hope I don't offend anyone. That's not what I meant by it. But it's got monetary-like attributes, but we're not.
Yeah, it's what the government views it as. Yeah, it's a collectible. It's taxed in the United States, gold as a collectible. Yeah.
Exactly. So because we're not holding customer deposits, we're not fractionally reserving, we're not creating a security and a right for a third party to perform. We are essentially, it's just an internet commerce for a commodity. And so that's it was very important to get to make sure that regulators and banking partners and everyone kind of understand the nature of that and what things that we can and can't do without certain licenses. So we've always just been proceeding with a lot of caution and making sure we do it right, because we're building a long-term business.
Yeah, and you guys have vault locations in how many different countries so far?
So right now we have 6 vault locations. We're looking to open up another one, but our primary vaults are in Toronto, Zurich, London, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Dubai. And we will be looking to open up a U.S. vault in the near future.
Now, we have a lot of silver bugs. A lot of people absolutely love silver on the show. They love silver more than gold, although they love both precious metals. Can we expect to see then in the near future maybe a BitSilver too, as well as a complementary type of company from you guys?
Yeah, so I don't think so, and here's why. I mean, I love silver too. I also love water. I love copper. There's a lot of commodities I love as an investment, as something I want to own, as something I want to use. But if you look at the difference between gold and silver in the context that we're using it, is with gold that we can provide free storage because it is relatively cheap to store. Because of the density, because of the value, because of the systems for vaulting it, silver is much more expensive, and so there's it doesn't function the same way over the long term as gold. It's an excellent commodity. I have nothing against silver, and we clearly offer that to the GoldMoney platform. But to use it like currency, I think is a little bit different in this electronic context.
Yeah, well, maybe then if you guys could do BitSilver and people would be willing then to pay more money for storage fees, but I guess then they're not going to get the same type of deal they do with BitGold for the low prices they charge, because you guys do have a pretty amazing business. I think the regular bullion dealers, they charge an enormous type of commission, and it's not a high margin product to sell bullion, but you guys offer the consumers a pretty good deal, I think close to spot.
Absolutely, and that was really the goal. We said, what are the main inhibitors to buying gold? Is it the access? Is it because you need a brokerage account to buy it in an ETF, or you need to be near a center that actually sells bullion? And are people having really high spreads for carrying and moving around physical inventory in the form of jewelry or scrap gold? Anything that we can lower the barriers to entry and get it to the best price for the most amount of people. We thought one of the main things is, why should we pay a storage fee? So by taking away the storage fee and also trying to create the scale, we can offer the best prices. And that's, that just like all these internet businesses that are really trying to democratize access, that's the whole goal.
Very good. Well, I think you're onto something really good. I wish you the best of luck. I think you have a very interesting business model. I think it's really good. It's scalable. I think it's a really good concept for allowing, the regular guy on Main Street, Joe Sixpack, who maybe he didn't have the amount of money to go buy a 1-ounce gold coin or some gold bars. He can start a BitGold account and he can slowly accumulate physical gold, and he can store it, in multiple vault locations. And then if he wants, he can take delivery of it eventually then after he's saved a certain amount of money in gold.
Exactly, and I think that's this is probably one of the most important points that perhaps we we waited towards the end of the program here. But for me the important thing is giving someone access in an era of negative real interest rate policy everywhere. And we're getting to areas where there's actually nominally negative interest rate policy. It's not conspiracy; it's policy that they're devaluing currency. And when that, as you say, Joe Sixpack or XYZ, country, when that citizen doesn't have another choice to secure value, doesn't have access to a brokerage account, doesn't have access to a real estate market, or being able to have debt to buy that asset, that appreciates in an inflationary environment. The simplest thing that everyone understands around the world is gold. And so giving that access as some sort of choice without friction, the best technology, the best convenience, that really was the mission, is allow someone to not, always be, basically chasing asset inflation. They can keep their savings in a metal that is appreciated against every currency. Again, not because of conspiracy, but because of policy. So that was really the mission.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, the policy is financial repression to knock the interest rates as low as possible so these governments and banks can continue to borrow near zero and speculate on higher assets like you're saying.
Yeah, and the person that doesn't have access, that's really just working the 9 to 5, doesn't have time to think, doesn't have time to speculate, doesn't even, likely can't even trust a lot of his investment advisors around him. This is a very simple personal gold standard. I believe, just in the math, really we're not on a mission to disrupt any central banks or implement a gold standard or anything like that. We just want to have a market response to negative interest rate policy, and that someone can very easily store, a commodity that will hold commodity value over time. And what I mean by that is, if you hold a piece of gold in your hand, you have no idea what it's going to be worth in dollars or euros or yen or renminbi or any other currency in 30 seconds, let alone 30 weeks, 30 years. But if you hold that gold, you generally know how many BTUs of energy that's gonna be equivalent to, or how many meals it's gonna feed you, and that's known over a few weeks, that's known over a few years, that's known over a few decades. Because the commodity correlations are what's very important, and so that's that's what we're promoting. But it's not anti-government; it's just a personal choice to hold something that stores value and have the math and physics of 6,000 years to back it up.
Yep, and it sounds like you guys are trying to scale it like PayPal, and I think you even just hired this week one of the former heads of PayPal Canada, right? So you guys are trying to make PayPal with using gold instead?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so if you again, coming back to what our the first problem that we tried to solve, the globally accessible gold. One of the key technology pieces of that was solving the settlement cycle, being able to settle a gold trade so that you can own fully titled, fully allocated gold, and own it in a very, very quick way using modern electronic payments. Once we solved that settlement cycle issue, we realized that it's more than just a savings product. Once there's that instant settlement, that can also be very useful in, say, cross-border finance, in cross-border commerce, in remittance markets, in money exchanges overseas. All of these things it can be very useful for, because we shorten the settlement cycle on physical gold from a few days or a few weeks into a few minutes. And so by doing that, we can now allow merchants to accept gold in everyday electronic commerce.
Very good. Well, I just want to thank you again for your time. Now, you have a 4th of July promotion I think you said you want to tell my listeners about for U.S. citizens?
Yeah. I mean, both Roy and I grew up in the U.S., and so, a lot of friends and family weren't able to access the service for a number of months, and we always found that pretty frustrating. But, as you mentioned, we did launch in the U.S., just over a week ago. And, for the 4th of July weekend, another big part of our platform is what we call Birthday Gold. And it's promoting, giving and gifting gold on birthdays, through, whether it's through social media, on a Facebook page, or just, peer-to-peer. But this whole concept of Birthday Gold is something that we, and sharing and being part of, community is a big thing for us. So, we decided that we're going to give every American that signs up some Independence Day birthday gold. So we're giving away 0.239 grams, about $9 worth of gold, for to celebrate the 239th birthday of the U.S. this weekend. And so that's not through a referral program, but just anyone that signs up in the U.S. will automatically be credited their U.S. birthday gold.
Very good. And you guys also have a good referral program, too. I know I've told some of my friends about, a good amount of my friends, actually, about BitGold, and I've sent them referral emails about it. I don't know if they've signed up yet, but they sounded very excited to hear how efficient it was to be able to store and pay in gold and save in gold.
Absolutely. And for us, that's, it's us, building a relationship with customers. And, as I mentioned before, it's a trust business. They've got to see it, they've got to experience it. There's no requirement. You just sign up. You don't have to deposit anything right away. You don't have to. We just want people to see the platform, see how easy it is to buy gold, to sell gold, to store gold, and eventually to use gold. So that's why we created this referral program, just to make sure everyone's rewarded for helping us spread the message and start building trust with the largest amount of customers we can.
Excellent. Well, I'm excited to see this grow further. You guys to democratize gold more and introduce more Americans back to gold. And I wish you guys the best of luck going forward. I think you guys are onto something very, very creative.
Great. No, thanks for your time, Jason. And again, really appreciate you following us and supporting us. And hopefully.